And hello, everyone. This is Elliot Serrano and Jose Melendez coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois. Thank you for joining us here on CCW TV, the video vodcast. It's a vodcast, you say, where Jose and I talk about comics, comic culture, and the comics industry. If you've never watched this show before, Jose Melendez works here at Dreamland Comics as one of their managers, and I am a comic book writer and columnist for the Chicago Red-Eye. So we try to give different perspectives from week to week on different comics topics, and we like to interact with you, the viewers. So know that every comment is read by Jose and I. If you can also hop over to our blog at comicculturewarrior.wordpress.com, where you can see us talk about even more comic-related topics and interact with us even more. And a warning. If you tease the dog, sometimes it bites. And this past week, somebody was teasing the dog on the blog. Someone was picking a fight with you, man. They were totally picking a fight with you. Oh. Well, they were picking a fight with both of us, actually. It came up over the whole, DC is kicking Marvel's ass right now in the market, and we were accused of pissing and moaning and whining about Marvel and loving on DC.
Yeah, it's kind of the last time I'm just not going to try to be clever anymore, like work kind of like, irony or anything into any of my comments ever, because people just take everything for face value.
I was going to say, understand that the ability to perceive sarcasm is a sign of intelligence. So you got to be smart to be able to pick up on it if you don't pick up on the sarcasm. So over on the blog, if you missed it, we got into a little back and forth with one of our viewers but then they acknowledged that it's, your opinions, your very boisterous, vocal opinions about comics are kind of what make the show. So, hey.
If you say so.
If I say so. I know so. So anyway, because we respect the views of everyone who watches this show and expresses them, just for you, buddy, we got another Blackest Night review! And we're going to lead off with Green Lantern number 48 by Jeff Johns and Doug Mahnke. Inks by Christian Alamy, and I think he had help on that one, didn't he?
Yeah, well, there's like always three inkers on Green Lantern now.
This is the lead-in issue to what would be the jaw-dropping cliffhanger that would happen in Blackest Night number 5. But let's hit Green Lantern really quickly, because Jeff Johns has been using the main Green Lantern book to set up all the big stuff in Blackest Night. I mean, if you're going to read any of the books in the Blackest Night tie-ins, really, you should be reading, of course, Blackest Night, Green Lantern Corps, and Green Lantern. Those are the three, you're getting the most story. You have all the other tie-ins. You've had, other books that have dropped in from time to time. But these are the core stories, which I kind of appreciate, that you don't have to go all over the place. And yet, you're getting a lot of story in himself within just the Green Lantern book. If you're just reading Green Lantern and not reading the other stuff, not reading Green Lantern Corps, you still can understand the story. Unlike friggin' Secret Invasion, when Bendis used Avengers and New Avengers to friggin', tell other stuff that he should have been telling in Secret Invasion that made no sense. But anyway.
Yeah, weren't the stories in, Mighty Avengers and New Avengers, flashbacks?
Flashbacks.
While Secret Invasion was going on.
And they weren't even Avengers. It was Skrull stories and Nick Fury stories. And it's all going on in Avengers, and I couldn't, and really... Why call the book
This is
Avengers?
Groundbreaking here for Green Lantern Corps and Green Lantern to be running side by side with the Blackest Night miniseries. How about that?
Yeah, and actually moving the story along. Yeah. Really. So, mind you, we did talk about this issue of Green Lantern on the blog a bit, but it was a standout issue because it gave us some background on some what were typically one-dimensional characters. Why don't you explain that to us?
Why don't I?
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay,
Because
sure,
you had a really
why
good
not?
handle. I really liked the way you explained it on the blog.
Well, So this story, it's in the last couple issues of Green Lantern, Hal Jordan and Indigo One, the Indigo Tribe Lantern, are gathering pretty much the leaders of all the different corps. So they have all of the lights gathered together before they go after like the Black Lanterns. So in this issue, they run into, or they go to find the Red and Orange Lanterns.
Right.
Atrocitus and Larfleeze.
Larfleeze.
The sole Orange Lantern.
He's like my precious. I forgot his name already from Lord of the Rings.
Wow, that movie just came out like only a few years ago, and you already forgot.
Yeah, that shows I'm not.
The books are even older. I don't know if you knew that they were based on books.
Really? Wow. I thought it was a cartoon series.
It was a really bad movie, animated movie. Anyway, so yeah, the good thing with this is that I mentioned on the blog that this is probably the best issue of Green Lantern that I've read personally that Jeff Johns has written since they restarted the series. Because, and not to pick on New Avengers again, but we're going to. The best thing about this book is that there's 7 main characters, which are the Lanterns. I'm not even counting the Guardians that are in this issue. But each character has its own personality and its own voice.
Right.
And the thing I mentioned on the blog was that even if I was just reading the dialogue, I can tell exactly who each character is. Right. Whereas the problem that I have in New Avengers and Dark Avengers, that everybody sounds exactly the same. And the fact that there's actual characterization, and Johns is writing it that way, it is nice.
And he's not trying to be clever. He's not trying to come up with little quotable lines here and there. He's just trying to give each character its own voice, and in doing that, move the story along. The themes here, of course, that have been explored really well with the Green Lanterns, and you saw this a little more. I saw this more in Green Lantern Corps because you do tend to have more of a variety of it's more of an ensemble cast in Green Lantern Corps. Here, Hal Jordan kind of has to step back a little bit and let an ensemble take over. You see how these different lanterns interact with each other, and just with some simple back and forth, the exchanges between the Indigo Lantern and Hal, the exchanges between Atrocitus and the Indigo Lantern. There is this really powerful moment near the end of this issue where you see where Atrocitus gets all his rage. And it really, to me, it keys into something, a problem that I've always had with the Guardians of Oa, that for being such quote-unquote immortal characters who have supposedly been around since the dawn of time, they make the same human mistakes over and over again. And you would think they would come to a point when they would learn from it, but it seems like they don't. But at least in this case, the Ganthet and the other the female guardian, I forgot her name, are at least willing to say, we have made mistakes. We need to atone for them.
And that's why they left the Guardians.
Right, and that's something that the Guardians of old never have really been willing to do, which is to say that we admit that they've been wrong. I mean, the Manhunters alone, going back to what the Manhunters have done and how that experiment failed, is a big key to Atrocitus's origin.
And the other thing that I liked about this is that in the regular Green Lantern, in the prelude to the Green Lantern stuff, when they were doing the Agent Orange story and they were doing the Rage of the Red Lanterns with Atrocitus and Larfleeze, I hated those characters. Like Larfleeze, like just came off as this really annoying, and the reason why is because like you brought up, it seemed to me like it was trying to be too clever,
right?
But it seems like Johns has finally got a handle on this character, and it really works in this, and he's actually quite funny.
Especially when you explain why he is what he is.
Exactly, and the Atrocitus character in the Rage of the Red Lantern storyline, to me, it just looked like another like blood-hungry villain that they needed, and it was very one-dimensional.
Right.
But after just that short, like 2-page backstory that Johns gives him, it's
Right. You see his motivations, and as some of the better villains, with some of the better villains, you actually sympathize, and you can kind of see his point of view, especially considering how badly the Guardians have messed up over the millennia, not only with the Manhunters but even with the Green Lanterns themselves. So this was a really good issue. And it led right into Blackest Night number 5, which I'm telling you right now, if you haven't read the issue, you're going to stop here. This is going to be a spoiler-laden review, although I know most of you who watch the show, you've already commented on it on the blog. But I'm going to tell you my favorite part, outside of the cliffhanger, the big dropping cliffhanger, was this spread right here, where you saw the different oaths that each of the lanterns take. This, again, another very clever device that Johns uses to show the different points of views of each of the character. And all told just through that oath. That, within the mythos of Green Lantern, you don't really need to say the oath, but it's something that kind of helps them in doing it.
Right, and again, in case you didn't read Green Lantern and you don't know how, because this is the first time all these lanterns have appeared together in here. And it gives the reader, if you're just reading the miniseries, it pretty much encapsulates what each character is about in those oaths in the first 2 pages.
Right. So you see that, bam, right there. You get what each character essentially believes and what their power embodies. So this was really a great setup for the issue. I'm going to give Johns some credit. I'm going to give him some credit. He could have played out the Black Lantern Batman for a while. He could have.
Yeah, well, they kind of have, because...
they were teasing it, mind you. Teased it from the very beginning. Remember how we were saying, the Black Lantern, Bruce Wayne will be resurrected as a Black Lantern?
Yeah, well, the Black Hand, every time you see the Black Hand, he's walking around with the skull.
Bruce Wayne's skull, doing the Hamlet routine. So, when you finally get the payoff, when, you see the words Bruce Wayne of Earth, rise, and the Black Lantern Batman, appears in this really cool double spread where, again, if you're going to do this sort of thing, you really have to play it for the drama. It was set up very, very well. Really, this, kiddies, is going to be a really cool poster if DC decides to release it as a poster. You would have thought any other writer would have kept this Black Lantern around for a while. Heck, keep him to the end of the miniseries. But John says, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, and it actually did serve a purpose, because they haven't really explained it yet, but what I'm gathering is that in order for what actually happened to all these characters, Batman was needed because they needed an emotional connection. Because these characters aren't really exactly dead. Right. So the emotional connection that Bruce Wayne had to them somehow is going to play into how things turn out. But to touch on something really quick that was kind of foreshadowing is, did you catch this in Green Lantern? When in Green Lantern Corps, we talked about last time how the power levels for Black Lanterns hit 100%.
Right.
Well, it now happens in Green Lantern.
Correct.
But that right there was foreshadowing what happened in here.
There you go.
Because I was finally, and this is what we're talking about. When the problem that I had in Blackest Night number 1 and 2, and in a couple of the early issues of Green Lantern, is that there was something going on with Hal Jordan and Barry Allen, and they were having some kind of reaction to the Black Ring.
Right.
And because both of these characters were dead.
Right.
And they kind of hinted at it, but then they dropped it for a while. And now we get to issue 5. But in Green Lantern, they actually have this Hal Jordan of Earth.
Like he's being summoned as well by the
exactly,
Black
but
Lantern
but it doesn't say rise like usually. It just teased a little bit, but then they kind of dropped it, which is foreshadowing with what happens
in Blackest Night.
And then, and it's like I was actually reading this issue and I was halfway through it, And then I look back at the cover, I'm like, man, it's only number 5 of 8. It's like, they still have a lot to go. I'm like, what are they? Because they obviously have to introduce some kind of new plot device in here to get you to, because it almost seems like it was kind of wrapping up a little bit.
Right.
And where they went with it, I was completely not expecting it. Well, I mean, I kind of was, but at the same time, when you actually see the last 2 pages, you're like, oh, fuck, really?
Because, again, Jeff Johns decides this is kind of his treatise on death in the DC universe. And he's exploring all the aspects of it. And, well, spoiler, this is going to also make a really cool poster if DC decides to release it. The Black Lantern JLA is just really pretty cool.
And then not only that, but you're hit with the fact that, like, holy shit, like, the JLA are now Black Lanterns. But then the 2 little teaser things at the end is you have Hal Jordan, the Black Queen is going for Hal Jordan, and Barry Allen is, like, running away from it. And those are the last 2 that were actually dead, that if they get caught with the black rings, I think things are going to be pretty much fucked.
And it's turning the Blackest Night series into... Now it's really making it more... Also in enveloping the Justice League. You know, Barry Allen and Hal Jordan, founding members of the original Justice League. So I think it's nice that Johns now is able to take them... You took the big, heavy hitters off the board. You can't be now that Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, the Trinity, are going to come in and solve everything. Now you're going to need your quote-unquote B players, like The Flash and Green Lantern, to step up.
And Mara, which Johns has been set up as...
So, a great book, and again shows how storytelling, an event pulled off really well, how that can do.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, the story just keeps building and building and building, and it's not really lying low. The first couple issues actually were set up, but by the 3rd issue, the story already had taken off, and this is already taking it to the next level, and you still got 3 issues to go.
Still 3 issues to go, and also Green Lantern Corps and Green Lantern too.
Right.
So let's end this here. When we come back, we're actually going to hit a book that we meant to review last week that we really enjoyed, but somehow got past us. So we hope you join us. See you then.